For me, I am not a behind the scenes operator. I'm loud. I talk a lot. I love meeting new people. And so I'd be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't constantly reaching out to those above me. I'd be doing myself a massive disservice if I didn't create groups like YEC, if I didn't take that lunch meeting with that person who wants to be in my seat, because that's who I am.
This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up. On today's episode of the Beyond Net Worth podcast, we host Mitch Mathews. Mitch is a close friend of mine, and he was a star at BYU, and he later had a career in the NFL. But today he describes in our episode how he wants to be more known as an entrepreneur than a football player, and the impact he's making is just so valuable.
Yeah, he goes into describe the importance of social media and some of the background and some insights that he has gained and learned over the years and why it's valuable. And he brings so much value to this episode. I know you guys will get a lot out of it.
I think a lot of people do still know me as like the football guy, or, like I was at lunch today and a couple of people came up to me and the first thing they say is, loved watching you play. Wish you were still out there,
Yeah.
They don't come up to you and say like, hey man, I love what you're doing now. It's typically like the fanboyness that I'll get is typically based on football, which is fine because that's who I was for 26, almost 27 years.
Right.
From college to the NFL. So that's typically where people know like the name from. But there's a weird thing that happens when like the ball stops rolling. It does for everybody. Some sooner than they want, some, after a 10-year career in the NFL or plus.
Right.
But it stops rolling for everyone. It's just so interesting to watch people try to recreate themselves after football's over.
Yeah.
And the very lunch I was at today, it was with a former player who just played a year with the Buccaneers. And
nice.
Not known to him, he's cut all of a sudden and he hasn't gotten any calls since, so sometimes they can just be like out of the blue, you get cut and you don't know what's next. And
yeah. Oh
my gosh, is football over? So I guess where the biggest win I had was when, stuff, I'll say, hit the fan and I decided to bounce back from that and see who I could become from that and to see how high I could bounce when I had that setback. And try to recreate myself into chapter 2, which football was over. And who else can I become and be that'll make myself proud? Because if I'm 50 and all I want to talk about is who I was when I was 26,
right?
That's a sad time. You know what I mean? That's not a person that I ever wanted to become. So when I'm 35, that's 4 years from now, I want people to recognize me for the impactful businesses that I created and the millionaires that I helped make in my sales reps and employees. And then when I'm 45, what's the next accomplishment? Then when I'm 55, what's the next one? And so that's just kind of kept me going. It's helped like part those dark clouds that come over after, an athlete stops playing football and that's his identity. Those come over everybody, but it's your job to part those and see the light somewhere else and then continue to perform at a high level and not just go teach Pee Wee football, but the next big thing. And that's the journey I'm on currently.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm sure there's hundreds and thousands of players going through that same thing. It's hard to see, when they have a hard time transitioning out. Like you said, it's going to stop for everyone. I mean, some earlier than others, but it will. And to see the success you've had, and transitioning out of that. I mean, I watched you on Bridger Pennington's podcast and just to kind of segue into this too, because I heard you talking about how you always knew you wanted to go into business, even when you were or playing football. You always kind of had that in the back of your mind. I think you said, you don't believe in plan Bs. You had plan A and plan A.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. So yeah, maybe like, you could share a little bit more about that, like the journey into that.
Yeah. There's something to be said about, plan A and plan A. I said to this, former teammate of mine, who's, transitioning out of the NFL. I said that exact same thing. So that's something I still believe in to this day. And I shared that this morning. That there's something to be said about an all-inness, and just kind of whatever situation you're given, what does your all-in look like, and seeing how high you can go where your feet are currently at. And that's honestly just helped me transition from sports to life. In like you mentioned, I was fortunate enough to have this itch and this bug for entrepreneurship. Even in college, when I knew I was going to have a chance to go play in the NFL. And I didn't let it be a distraction. I just let it be an excitement for whenever that next chapter comes, I am going to use football, use the last name, use the lessons I learned, the leadership skills I developed, use my competitiveness that I've all learned from football. And a lot of it translates to business.
Yes.
And so I kind of allowed football to be my college, if you will, my school, my training for entrepreneurship. And it actually translated over really, really well. And, I'm a huge reader because I feel like I have to fill in the gaps for things that I didn't really know. Because to be honest, if my grandma listens to this, she'll knock on my door tomorrow and beat me with her cane. But I didn't really go to college. I didn't go to class at all. Because my training was being the best football player I could be, because that was plan A.
Right.
That was
100%.
plan A. And football has a shelf life. Business doesn't. And so anything that has a shelf life, you better eat it now or else it's going to expire. And so I wasn't the athlete that, had, part of his time dealing with school, part of his time was social, part was football, part was this. It was literally just ball. And I can't regret it. I don't regret it at all. But the downtime that I did have, because training and practice was in the morning, is I knew that even though plan A was plan A and that's the direction I was going, I knew that whether I was 30 when I stopped playing or 35, you're still so young that the next 40 years have better be fruitful. And I can start to use the momentum that I had during football to parlay that into my next chapter whenever that came. And so my schooling that I got was inviting big BYU fans who are also big in business.
Yes.
So a guy like Nick Greer, who's the founder of Built Bar, big BYU fan. That's a guy that I have lunch with instead of going to class. He's a mentor of mine to this day. Or Jeremy Andrus, the CEO of Traeger Grills. Him and I are going to hit a hike next week, because he's a guy that I asked when I was a player to go to lunch with instead of going to class. So that was sort of my schooling, was those connections. And we're still close to this day. And so using football as a catalyst for business has been something that I feel like I did a good job of, and just thinking, how can I use football as a fuel to my next chapter? And it's helped so far. So
absolutely, man. I want to point out some of the keys to success of the transition, because like you said, a lot of people, they have this runway of football and they tank, right? But I think a couple of the things I've noticed, right, is you're providing value to people right off the bat. I was telling Kallan the story of how we met, right? And we talked about Lolo's Buff Bakery with my wife's business. And the first thing you did for her was provide her value. You made her like a promo video, and all of a sudden she got these orders, coming in, followers. And all of a sudden it was really easy for us to go to lunch and talk about, future of doing business together. And, my wife just had a baby and we're trying to still figure out what direction that business is going to go. But you better believe that Mitch is going to be on the list of people we call when we're ready for the next step. You know what I mean? And I think with your YEC club you just formed, it's a group of young entrepreneurs that hop on a call a couple Mondays every month. And Mitch is just providing value, and he provides value to people who are, climbing the ranks, and also people who he's trying to get in the room with them too. That's a huge way you've kind of carved out your success without too much of a downtime,
Yeah, something that I teach the people in my network is to network with people who are sitting in the seat that you want to be sitting in, and then network with people who want to be in the seat that you're in. Because there's beauty in practicing helping people get to where you are. Meaning like a 20-year-old who wants to be in my seat. And I'm the 10 years older version of him. And then there's people who are in their 40s and 50s who I'm networking with because I want to be in their seat. And so there's this reach up to where you want to be because there's a table that you want to have a seat at. And there's also the service, the providing value for people who want to be in your seat, and the practice of being really good at that, because that's leadership. That's inspiring people. That's influence, which is all leadership is. And so I'm big on networking with people above, and then also networking with people who are maybe the 10-year younger version of me, and helping them speed up the process to maybe get where I'm at and to see things I wish I would have seen at their age. And I'm a big believer in that practice, because if you're just networking upwards and forgetting about the people who are below you, then it's inauthentic. And people are going to realize that about you, that you're just using the people above you to get to the place you want to go. But if you continue to practice the practice of providing value to people who want badly to be in your shoes, then you're a leader. You'll create a cult following of people that want to be like you and know that you're willing to help them. And then you'll be able to glean knowledge from those people that are above you as well, and parlay that into the people that want to be in your shoes, that are, we won't call it below you, but we'll call it people that just want to be in your shoes. And so it's a two-way road. And the practice of reaching up and as well as reaching down to pull people up is something that I advise all entrepreneurs to do.
I love that. I really appreciate that too. Have you ever had someone that you've reached out to, and maybe you haven't, that, I don't know, said no? I mean, what are some of the things, like if, let's say we're reaching up, we're reaching out to people, what are some advice or tactics, or how do you approach that? And, and then also that's like probably question one of the others. Have you ever had someone like not, want to be like, not say yes to a lunch or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I would say that most people are nicer than we think. We see them on Instagram with all these followers, and we think, man, he must be, or she must be a jerk. They must not want anything to do with me because they're so much farther ahead.
Right.
Most people actually want to serve, because I think a lot of people who are successful, you actually feel guilty being successful alone. You actually have the desire naturally as human beings to bring people up with you. I know that I do. I know that a lot of my friends who are successful do as well. They want to help people get there. Like when people ask me in an authentic way to help them, I actually do want to help. And so most people do. I think where people suffer is they don't actually even reach out to people that they want to meet, those people that are above them, the 10, 20-year-old older version of them. They don't reach out thinking that it's going to be embarrassing to get denied. What if they say no? What am I going to say to them? And so they just don't do it at all. You got to remember, if you're not reaching up, how can you properly reach down? Because you're not getting any of that golden insight from the people that are above you. Yeah. And how can you reach down? And so as you begin to reach up to people who are sitting in that seat that you want to be in, you gain so much knowledge and so much power and such a strong connection, a network of people that you can serve. A lot of things that I say aren't even my ideas. They're things that I've learned from other people, right? And I've kind of spit them out in my version of them. And so 100% I've DM'd people and they haven't responded. And then I've DM'd people again, they haven't responded. And then I'll find another way to do it again. They respond, and now we're friends and have been for 5-6 years. There's times like that. And there's times where people never see the DM or the phone call or the email or the gift package that I sent them. And it is what it is, but right. I'll never stop trying, because I know that's going to provide value to those who want to be in my seat. And it's going to make me a better coach, a better entrepreneur, and speed up my process.
Well, and you believe in what you're doing too. Like that's a big piece of it too, is you don't have to feel worried because hey, this is who I am. I don't really have that fear of failure because I have a bigger fear of regret, right? The fear of regret and a missed opportunity is greater than the fear of embarrassment. I think that's a big priority shift that you've got to have take place to really get there. And what Mitch is describing, this being able to reach up and reach down, it's how businesses are created, right? Because let's give an example of someone who he likes your business idea and he's willing to do like the money, right? And you have a skill set that you can run a couple certain things, but maybe you have someone else that you want to bring in, that it's a perfect synergy. You've got to have both the connections above and for lack of a better word, behind, right? So I really appreciate that. It's good insight.
Yeah. And I think you have to know what your skill set is and who you are. And for me, I am not a behind the scenes operator. I'm loud. I talk a lot. I love meeting new people. And so I'd be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't constantly reaching out to those above me. I'd be doing myself a massive disservice if I didn't create groups like YEC, if I didn't take that lunch meeting with that person who wants to be in my seat, because that's who I am. And that's my style. I learned this from my mom. She was incredibly infectious. Everywhere she went, she made new friends. As a kid, you're like, Mom, you're so awkward. Like, why can't we just be on an elevator and go up and down? Why do we have to meet a new friend and invite them over to dinner? And that's like, that was who she was. And I realized that that's why she was so influential in her spheres. And that's who I am to this day, that everywhere I go, I'm trying to make that new connection, that new friend, because it's authentically me. And so if it's something that you hate doing, you feel like you have the skill set to do it, you're a better operator, maybe that's better for that person just to stay as an operator. But typically entrepreneurs have to have great skills in connecting with people. So for the entrepreneurs, the leaders, the salespeople, the people that run businesses, this advice is most likely for you. And I learned this from Steve Jobs, that like your ability to recruit people to work with you will be it'll correlate exactly with the size of your business. If you can't be influential and pull people that are above you down to do business with you. When I say down, I just mean pull them to do business with you.
Pull them together.
The ability to pull people up to come together with you and have a sphere of 100 people that will buy your product tomorrow. Your ability to attract and to recruit talent into your life will be the direct correlation of the size of your business and the success of your business. Because if so many people want to be around you, so many people want to work for you, then you'll be able to hire the best talents. You'll be able to sell the best products. You'll be able to sell anything you touch. And so as an entrepreneur, leader, business person, your ability to inspire and influence people has got to be a skill that it's an everyday thing that you're trying to grow.
Absolutely, man. That's big. And I think another way that you do that is personal brand, right? I think I remember on our YEC call, you shared a interesting story, and this is kind of going back to the football thing though. When you made the decision that you were going to be an entrepreneur, you basically shifted your brand from the football guy to the business guy, and you just shared that your goal is to be known as Mitch, the business guy, not only the football player. And I think creating a personal brand is a way that you've been able to make those connections. Maybe share a few key things for our audience when it comes to creating a personal brand.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort to do, but when you find exactly why you're doing it, you realize how big of a catalyst it is. And any catalyst in your life, you're going to try to grow that catalyst. Social media for me, I just quick thought, oh my gosh, it's been huge because it's a catalyst for everything that I want to do, Right. So whether it's the new business partnership that I recently formed, that was a relationship that I had from social media. That person would have never responded to me unless I was had put into high effort into social media. The sales reps that were able to recruit, 70, 80% of them have ultimately come from my social media. And so for what I do, it's a huge catalyst. If you do something where social media isn't a huge catalyst, then maybe you don't worry about it. But for most people, their business, if applied with social media, can just be a massive, massive growth engine. But I think once again, it always comes back to people suffer paralysis by analysis on social media and creating a personal brand in fear of becoming that person they don't like seeing on social media.
Right.
What I mean by that is we all follow like 7 or 8 cringy people on social media. It's like, oh my gosh. But like they can do their thing. It's not me, but I'm going to be the most authentic version of me. But most people see that and say, I can't do social media because I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, those guys are that guy in person as well. They're probably cringy in person as well. They're probably flexy in person as well. And it translates to social media. If you're an authentic person who has a great business, social media will be nothing but a catalyst for you. But so many people suffer and that paralysis by analysis because they're too afraid to become that person they don't like seeing on social media.
That's huge, man. Kallan has a funny story where he basically ran into one of those cringy people that you think they're just being cringy for social media, but they really are that way in real life.
It was no joke. I mean, we won't say names or anything like that, but it was crazy. I mean, this guy, he like on social media, he's in your face, telling you're a piece of crap if you're not doing 15 miles a day or whatever it is, working out 2-3 times a day. It's just
Young
funny.
Goggins.
Yeah, like that.
Not Goggins. He didn't get to meet Goggins.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. I would have been
a young new Goggins.
Yeah, for sure. No, they have a lot of they have a huge following, and there's a time and a place for what they have. But I was at the gym. He just he was calling me out. Like never met him before. It was, anyways. We don't have to share the whole story.
No, people are candles. They won't last.
But he was being authentic. I was like, okay, I guess that is how he is in real life.
Well, I want to point something else out though, right? So you have your kind of the goal is to put your reach out there on social media the way that you are, the way you want to be perceived, right? In a way that is approachable, right? Like that's the whole point of how Mitch brings value is he's really approachable, even though he's a big deal, right? I think underneath that you have guys or gals on social media that are the cringy ones. But you know what's even worse than that is the people that they're not willing to do it at all. And I think I'm coming out of that camp, right? And we all need to come out of that camp and realize we are no better than the people who are cringy because at least those people are giving it a shot.
Yeah, 100%. Credit to them.
I agree to that. I agree to that.
Yeah, credit to the person who's getting on social media and trying.
Right.
I enjoy social media. That's why I did it on my own. Now I hire out a team to really be the engine behind it for me. It's obviously all my content. It's all my words. It's authentically me, but someone to produce it for me.
Yeah.
Just because social media, if treated like an actual business, is a huge catalyst for people. Meaning, like at my business now, let's just take the Anthem, the pest control business that I own. If I didn't have weekly meetings, we didn't have KPIs, we didn't have numbers tracked, we didn't have revenue coming in, we didn't know anything. We just hoped it worked. Obviously, it wouldn't work. Same thing goes for social media. If you're just like only posting when you remember to post, it will not work and you'll be frustrated. And that's why most people quit. But I have weekly meetings every Tuesday, 2:45. We go over how many views all the posts got. We go over why some were less than others. We sort of transition or move the needle in one direction or the other. Is it more TikTok content that we should be doing or Instagram content that we should be doing based upon the numbers and the KPIs that we're reaching and numbers that we're hitting? And so it's deliberate, it's thought out. And it's not like I actually love social media and being behind the scenes and doing all that, but I love the effect that it has.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing it. I'm public with a lot of my thoughts and a lot of the things I do in my family. And so I have a desire to do it, but I would only do it if it was tracked regularly and it was helping me. Social media can be a big frustration if you're only posting when you remember, because now you're 3 days behind. Oh my gosh. So it's got to be treated like you would your business, or it won't perform like your business does.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's just one point that came to my mind when you were talking about just the cringe factor. And I think someone could be cringy to you because you know them or you grew up with them, but like there's someone across the country that loves that person, you know, and
That
just
needs a lecture.
yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, if there were people, like if you didn't think about all the kids you went to high school with, and now you're trying to create this new brand of yourself, and you're almost being held back because you know, like, oh, that's not who he is. I know who that person is, and then you say that to yourself, and then you just don't do it.
And
So you can go ahead, Ben, if you have. I just had a thought on
You
that.
go first, yeah.
Go ahead.
So that is a good point to bring up, and something that I want to touch on is so many people think that when you're getting made fun of for something, you should stop. And I totally disagree. My friends, I'm 31 years old. All my friends are 31, 32 years old, and they clown on me all the time for the social media stuff I do.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious to me. But guess what? I still do it,
Right.
and it still works.
Yeah.
Just because someone makes fun of me for something, or when I went out to the University of Oregon game, you know, I brought out my content team to come get content, and they clowned on me the entire time for it. But have the type of personality that doesn't shrink because of that, doesn't get embarrassed because of that, and just pushes through with what you know you have to do. I hear so many people say, "Oh man, if I did that, my family would make fun of me so bad."
Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
So a lot of people measure what they do, how hard they go, whether or not they're on social media, whether or not they launch that business by, are people going to make fun of me for this? Because they don't have the ability to get embarrassed, the type of personality where getting made fun of, they can with their wittiness give it back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They judge their actions based off of, okay, if I go run this marathon, how many people are going to make fun of my time? Okay, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
If I get onto social media, my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters, my cousins, they'll clown me on every single post.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do it. If I start this business, I'll get made fun of at first, which you always do when you start a business. Okay, so I'm not going to start it. And so we judge our actions based off of how often or how much we're going to get made fun of for something. But that still happens to this day with me. It's hilarious. I give it right back to them in a different way,
Yeah.
and we move forward. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be able to grow that bone, whatever that is, or that muscle. You have to grow that to be able to know that people are going to make fun of you for a lot of things, but it does not mean you stop doing what you're doing.
Well, and you have to be a visionary too, right? Like that's one thing, you know, you just kind of brought it up, Mitch. Like you're a big picture visionary guy. You're not going to be the behind the scenes guy. And it goes back to everything in life. You know, like if you're the kind of guy that would have a big vision for how you want your life to be like, as far as your family life and your work-life balance and your businesses, but you're not going to be willing to set a big picture vision for your social media, you know, that's something that I'm learning literally in real time. Like have a vision for your social media or your reach, because if you want your vision to be accelerated or accomplished, like that's a big piece of it. And I think that's why Mitch is able to go back and say like, look, I don't really care. I have a vision, and in order to bless lives, make money, do all these goals, you know, he said he wants to make, 5 or 10 million, make other people millionaires. Like in order for me to make other people millionaires, I'm going to have to work on my social media. And that brings a lot. We're working together with Big Storage Ventures, our storage investment company. Kallan just came on, and the way it's structured is my goal is to make Kallan a millionaire, and I better start putting myself out there if I want to really do that. So that's a perfect real life example, Mitch. Thanks a ton, man.
Yeah.
And
it goes right back to your point you made on having that plan, that vision, that strategy right in the beginning. You know, I had a conversation with AJ Osborne, the self-storage guru, at a conference, and he was telling us that he was telling us about a loan that he got. It was like $60 million loan because of social media. He's no joke. He said it was because, and he basically, I don't know the product. It was a unique loan product. It was from Goldman Sachs. It was like one where they call in and you have to get like the interest rate. They lock it in, all that stuff. And he said they got this call and it was Goldman Sachs. And he's like, if you get a call right before you're supposed to get your rate, he's like, it's over. It's done. And he was so mad. he was furious because it's all this work just all down the drain in his mind, he thought. And so they get the call and they're like, hey, the guy was like, I want to talk to AJ Osborne. And he's like, okay. And he's like, gets in the call and he's upset. He's mad. And he's like, yo, AJ, he's like, I follow your Instagram. I love your stuff. It's amazing. I just wanted to call and talk to you. And he's like, I told our team here at Goldman Sachs, we're getting you your money. No matter what, you're getting your 60 mil. And it was like, I'm amazing. Like, dude, I mean, like, it's hard to quantify, right? And that's part of the other thing. And you're talking the KPIs and the business and evaluation. Sometimes you can, quantify. I'm like, whoa, there's a $60 million social media gig or deal. Right. So, I mean, anyways, there's value in it. And I'm learning, my mindset's starting to change a lot with this. Like, I'm learning this. I've been out, like, I haven't been posted on Instagram in years. And
Kallan's been dark for a while.
Yeah,
We're getting him back out.
I've been dark. And this is like,
well, this is be my advice. Do it right or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Like you're wasting time, energy, stress on something. If you're not going to do it right, then don't do it at all. With that, though, being said, you don't have to be perfect to start, not at all. So you have to have an appetite and know exactly how social media can help you. You have to have an appetite for putting your face in front of a camera, and you have to have an appetite for doing it right, or it won't help at all. And you'll look back and say, well, failed at that. That was a waste of time. That was a waste of stress. I constantly felt guilty because I wasn't posting. I was constantly late. Well, then you shouldn't have done it at all. But I also think that good is better than great at first, or good is better than perfect at first to get started. And then you're on your mission to make an absolutely great social media along the way. But to get started, you just have to be good. You just have to want to do it. Yeah. But I would say don't do it at all unless you're striving to do it right.
That's really good advice. I mean, we could transition to a different topic. There's just one last point I wanted to make on this, just because like this journey, even starting this podcast and stuff, someone who really inspired me, in the fact, what we were talking about on just not caring, just being yourself, doing it, is someone I went to high school with. His name's Tanner Gilman. And if you're listening to this, Tanner, or if you know Tanner, we want him to come on this podcast. He just barely released, he was in, what is the BYU SNL again? I'm just drawing a blank.
Is it the dry bar comedy?
Studio C?
Yeah, Studio C. So okay. He's in Studio C, and like he just had an Amazon Prime movie, like just saw online, that's being featured right now and stuff. And we went to high school with him, but it was the point I'm trying to make, it was his Instagram. Like I just like came across his videos and I'm just like, dude, these are amazing. These are so funny. And it was inspiring to me. What I'm trying to say is like, that was inspiring because I'm so proud of him. And it's weird. Like it's not like we hung out, like we weren't friends. I just grew up with him and know him. And I'm like, gosh, I'm like so happy for him that he is like being so successful, and that and that he's sharing it, and that I can see that on social media. So anyways, yeah, that was just my last thought. There's a lot of things we want to talk about too. So
no, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal as far as your personal brand. Your personal brand, people are going to meet you at networking events, masterminds, just going through life. If you're an extrovert, you should meet people wherever you go, right? But I think social media is becoming something that needs to be a part of the conversation. So
definitely, so one thing with social media is, you always see the good. And so one of my questions for you, Mitch, and this regarding business, maybe not social media, but I think some of the biggest lessons we can learn are from mistakes. And I don't know, is there something that comes to your mind in your business journey, in your company? It could be Anthem, could be all the other things you're doing, that was just one of those huge lessons you learned that may have came from a mistake instead of, something else?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've made tons of mistakes, had tons of failures. Unfortunately, a lot of the setbacks I had were super public, with football. If you're released from a team, that's in the hands of millions of people via Twitter within 5 minutes, and so a lot of your setbacks are exposed, right? And so I've developed an ability to look at failure because I failed a ton, and sports gives you that opportunity to fail a lot. That I've developed that bone or whatever you want to call it that doesn't allow me now to not try something in fear of getting embarrassed. And so if you follow me on social media, and by the way, I don't even want it to come across like I'm some social media guru. Like,
Right.
It's not that I am at all. You know, I'm not like a social media coach.
Yeah.
But I know it's important, and I know it'll continue to grow because I'm putting a lot more effort into it now than I ever have. But because I got some good things to say, and because I feel like I'm doing it in an authentic way. And so I, as often as possible, try to self-deprecate on social media and to make fun of myself and to show the family side of things. And I've had social media consultants come to me and say, well, we should just put out like 5 videos a day on leadership quotes and whatever. And I'm like, no, my family is going to be on my social media because I want people to know that you can be a good dad and a good entrepreneur. Yes. I want people to know that you can have a happy wife and be a good entrepreneur. Like, I want people to know that. That's part of the entire mission of what I'm doing. And so setbacks and failures come with that. The only thing with that, and what's interesting is, like, I'm not gonna post on my social media as we're trying to grow a business about like, here are the 5 things we do bad at our business and how you can learn from me. And while I have, 110 employees and, extra 100 sales reps, right? Like, I'm not like, there's a way to go about that where you can post some failures. And I try to do that with things I did in the past, like sports. But there is, people are smart. And there is a way to go about social media and to keep it authentic, because people are smart. If you're only posting your highlights, people will just assume that you're fake. If you're only posting your wins, people will say, this guy he's just a little bit flexy for me. I don't know if I can follow him because apparently he's perfect. But we're smart people. We know that's not true. And so there's this disconnect. The most authentic people on social media show who they are. They show their families. They show exactly what they're doing. They post about some of their failures and setbacks in life. But I try to peel back the curtain as much as possible to give people a real life view of what it's like to play football at a high level, do entrepreneurship at a high level, lead your family well, be smart with your money, and have a dang good time doing it while inspiring the world. And so there's a way to show your failures that they're not going to damage your business. Right. Yeah. But I just think peeling back the curtain in general as to who you are in some setbacks, it develops you as an authentic person that people can really, really relate to. And that's how you'll be ultimately attractive to the general public, is they're going to see you as someone real and who they want to be as the whole package.
Totally. And I think failure, it's important to show that failure is as much of the game as anything, right? I like to think of it as like a heavyweight boxing match. Like, you've got to be able to take punches just as well as you can deliver them, right? Obviously, like, you've got to be able to deliver punches to win the fight. But if you can't take a punch, you're not going to last long in a fight. Same thing with business. Same thing with, your spiritual journey, whatever it may be. Like, if you can't take the hard times, then you're not going to make it. I think that's important to show people, like Mitch said. Like, obviously you don't have to show everything, but he's probably used to it being in the spotlight of just not being afraid to show people that you're human, and it makes you more approachable,
Yeah. And I think in terms of balance, with everything, and this isn't even a social media topic, this is just in general.
Right.
I think certain people, they say, okay, like, I've done the whole spiritual thing. I've worked on the mind. It's time to go now chase this thing. It's time to go be an entrepreneur or be great in business. And you see a lot of young people and entrepreneurs who, when they get a little bit of success, they ditch who they used to be as if that was just a springboard to get to where they are. And eventually your foundation crumbles, and there's a tipping point where when you're not fully harmonized and balanced in your life, and no one's perfect at this, but I can give advice on it because I've gone through some shifts and different things in my life that I regret doing, and I work towards getting harmonized in my life. But if you used to be someone who was spiritually aligned and now you're not, you are living with guilt, and you are living with a little bit of anxiety because you deep down wish you were more like that person you were 10 years ago. You know, if you used to be someone who was had the body that they wanted to have, and now you don't. Well, you're just living with a little bit of guilt, and you're not able to enjoy all the pleasures of life because you just kind of ditched who you used to be, thinking that you did those things just to get to where you are now. And now there's like a celebration moment where there never really is, right? And so it's just the constant celebrating along the way by being harmonized and having, you know, whether it's emotional, spiritual, physical, mental, and then your business all align, all being very important to you. You actually shed a lot of guilt and baggage from yourself. I see so many people, man, who get to a certain point and for whatever reason, they ditch who they used to be. And those people don't last very long. They just don't. It's just, you can just seriously sit back and watch like it's a movie.
Yeah.
These people get to a place, they ditch who they used to be, and something falls short. There's more friction than they want to have, and they fall short some way. So I work on social media and in my life to be completely harmonized so that social media can be a long-term play for me and business can be a long-term play for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that's like awesome. And something I really look up to is guys like you who are holding to that. You know, it's refreshing to see someone who is going to keep, you know, their family values and maybe their spiritual and all these other things in line as they're growing and gaining success. And we need that.
Yeah, I mean, you see people whose lives fall out of balance and the wheels fall off all the time. You know, I remember, I think people are starting to get it a little bit more, but maybe 5-10 years ago, the idea was, okay, lock yourself in a room for 3 years and create this business. It's like, for what though? You know, like there's nothing you're going to get out of that. Just dollars in the bank. You miss all this stuff. You know, I think that's a good example of just staying balanced and making sure that staying genuine to who you are. So,
yeah. I think the best way I've done that, and man, I never want to come across as if I've like just nailed it and I'm so harmonized, you know,
right.
That's not the case. That is a work in progress for me as it is for everyone else. But the best way I found to constantly course correct is remembering my own death. Like, remember there's like an end to this. Mm-hmm. There is a clock. Now, that can sort of give someone anxiety, right? But don't let it, because it happens to everybody, right? You shouldn't feel like something's happening to you if it happens to everybody. It's just what happens. We're all going to die at some point. And so when you remember that simple fact, you'll begin to align yourself on, okay, if that's going to happen, then who do I want to be right now? Why would I work a job that I absolutely don't like, that has raised my level of anxiety? It has made me way too stressed and not treat my wife as well. If I know I'm going to die, why would I ever do that? It's like 50 more years left.
Yeah.
Like, what? If I can simply just remember the fact that like there is an end to this. We'll just call it this. Everything you're doing is at this. There is an end to this. You'll start aligning yourself quickly. Man, if there's an end to this, I better get my butt back to this, the place spiritually that I was. Man, if there's an end to this, then why am I working a job that I absolutely hate? If there's an end to this, then if I only have one shot at this, then I'm going to treat everyone around me extremely well. I only have one shot. I'm going to do it right. And it just begins to align you as you realize your own death, which might seem weird to people. It might seem morbid, but it's not, because it happens to everybody, you know? And a lot of times you don't even know how much time you have left. But if you simply remember memento mori, just remember your own death, it'll align you really quick to what you want to do. And especially as an entrepreneur, say no to that business, even though it would make you money. You know you don't love it. You know you're just saying yes because it'll make you some cash. You know it'll just make you more stressed. Say no to it, because you're going to die. And you really want that on your resume? Like you really want that at the end of your life, you really want to have that tacked onto your resume. So as you just ponder on your own death occasionally, not all day long, occasionally, you'll quickly align. It's sobering. So you'll align really quickly on exactly what you want to do.
Well, it just brings to mind the most important things in life, right? Like all these self-help books and TED Talks can be summed up with the Tim McGraw country song, just live like you were dying, right?
Yeah.
Seriously though, like it's very simple. If you can really keep that spirit in the forefront of your mind, it's a big deal.
I think that's incredible advice and a good key takeaway, for all of our listeners. I mean, don't wait until you have a life threatening situation. I mean, I think of, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 17 in high school. And when you're faced with death, when you think about it, then you change your life. Like you make different decisions. And I don't want to, going back to AJ Osborne, when he got paralyzed, that's what he tells his story about. He changed his whole life. He is living his best self because he had that. And you don't have to have a life-threatening experience to have that realization. Like you said, if we just took your advice, and I still have to remember that, if I just took that, I think I would be better off, much better off.
It's hard because you wish it didn't take that life-altering moment, that death in the family, that injury. You wish it didn't take that, but that is like life's way to shake you and make you listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think the great ones, they ponder on the end of things and it sobers them up so fast and it causes them to act now to fulfill the shelf life, because there is a shelf life on almost everything. And so that's where I found meeting with people who are 50, 60, who are incredibly successful entrepreneurs. Those people are sobering to me because they'll say things. I'm like, man, I'm so glad we're at this lunch. I'm so glad we talked, because I would have probably said yes to that opportunity. And now after hearing what you just said, you're closer to death than me, probably. You're closer to death than me. I'm so glad you said that, because the closer you get to that end moment, that endish time, the more sober you are, right? When you're kids and when you're young, like we are, you sort of think you're indestructible. You sort of think you have this infinite amount of time and you can, do whatever now and there's no repercussions. But that's where the older generation in the world is screaming at you to sober you up now so that you can squeeze every single thing you want out of this life. And so once you ponder on your death, it's not scary at all. It's actually in some ways exciting, because you're like, wait, that just made me have the thought and made me have the courage to act now and do exactly what I want to do, instead of live at a job that I hate and do something that I don't want to do. If you legitimately knew the exact day at which you were going to die, you would actually plan it out like year by year. If you knew it was 10 years from now, I'd say 95% of people would literally change what they're doing now. And so what's holding those same 95% of people back from pondering on that what if scenario and making themselves do what they know they should be doing right now?
Absolutely, man. And we talk so much about entrepreneurs trading, about trading money for time. You get this paradigm shift, like, oh man, I'm trading my time for money. I need to switch my priorities and put time as really what I'm after. And after a while, you start to pay people to free up your time. But then you have this, I guess, like another level to Maslow's hierarchy where you realize, hey, time is important, but actually what am I getting with my time? What kind of mark am I leaving on my time? That's probably more important than my total amount of time I'm freeing up for myself. Is what am I putting into these years, these days, these moments, right? Because that's really what people remember. That's your legacy, is the moments, not how long you live. That's not the winner. The winner is who squoze the most joy out of whatever time they got. So that's a big way to wrap it up, Mitch. I know you have another event coming up, man, but we could go all night. We've just jamming with you. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
It's been fun. We should do this again.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. You're awesome. I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course. I hope it went in the direction that you want it to go. Podcasts and interviews like this, they kind of just go a direction and you just kind of live with it, right? But hopefully it went the direction that you guys went.
I think so, man. I feel inspired personally. I mean, there's things I'm going to, I'm writing down in my head right now because I don't have paper. I'll use Ben's paper. But yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been an awesome episode.
We couldn't have planned it out better, man. Seriously, this has been an awesome thing, and I'm so grateful that I got to meet you and I get to rub shoulders with you, and I just can't thank you enough for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch.
Be on there Monday night for the YEC call, both you guys. For sure. It's Mark Hodelich. He founded 29029 Everesting event, where you hike the same height as Mount Everest, 29,029 feet.
Wow.
They just sold that to iFit. He's a great CEO, highly endorsed, and he'll be speaking to us on Monday night at 8 p.m. So make sure you guys are on there, and it should be fun.
Count on it. Mitch, where can people find you? What's the best way to reach out?
Hit me on social, just at Mitch Mathews 10. That's probably the best way to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
we can put that in the description.
We'll put it in the show notes, and we just appreciate you, Mitch. And that's it for another episode of Beyond Net Worth.